a little bit of a suspenseful countdown there. Repeated it. I was like, what
No.
the hell?
He's like, hold on, run it back.
Yeah.
It's like not like us at the Amazon show, man. Ran it back 3 times. Let's go. What's up?
What's up, man? What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another show here. I haven't done one in forever, but I wanted to do one that because I was thinking like I want to do a live stream, but I didn't want to be like, oh, let's get on here and talk Friday the 13th and stuff like that. But I was like, what do I want to cover? And I never reviewed these movies, and so I thought this was going to be just me on here, but Corey was like, "Hey man, I'll join you on here," and I was like, "Hell yeah, dude! If you want to, I mean, these are heavy movies, man, but I appreciate it." But I was like, "Hell yeah, dude!"
Are you going in solo on these? Because like it's cool, but I know how like these are kind of hard to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know how I would have pulled that off, honestly, because I was like, "What the fuck would I say?"
Yeah, it is one of those where it's like after a while, well, I guess what am I gonna do? Make jokes about this movie by myself?
And here we're on a part 4, more atrocities, guys. Stay with us. No, I was joking.
The vibes are rolling.
Dude, it was gonna be a rough one solo, but you were like, "Man, you want me to join?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" So we got King Need Gore here, Corey, and thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. No problem. No, I'm happy to join. I'm glad you offered. I wasn't just gonna come out and ask. I was like, hey, if it's solo, I mean, I'm kind of asking, but yeah, dude, I'm glad to come through and talk about these movies. I'm glad to rewatch these or see some of them for the first time because there's surprisingly more than just the one.
Yeah, and like for a while I didn't even know there were sequels until there was a video I seen where he broke down the sequels and pretty much went into the fourth one too. This is a really interesting franchise because I don't think it was ever really supposed to be a franchise, but they tried to make it a thing, but
and you can kind of feel that they tried to make it a thing.
Yeah, like especially with some of the sequels. It's like, well, we'll lighten it up a bit. We'll put some different stuff in here, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, no, just stop.
Yeah, man, it's very extra. But I'll let you like lead with this one because I could sit here and really talk about that second one a lot, but that's skipping a lot of good stuff.
We'll definitely get to the second one. That one surprised the hell out of me at how big of a drop there is there. But
like, that's what we're doing. Okay.
But to get into it, we're gonna be discussing the Men Behind the Sun movies, and with this fucking green screen, I don't know if that'll work. But shout out to Massacre Video. They did a really cool job at releasing these movies on Blu-ray, especially the sequels. Those I have never even seen physical copies of, unless they were like some DVDs or something. I don't know.
There's probably some VHSs floating around. I'm kicking myself for not grabbing those though. I'm like, they do kind of look nice together though. Damn,
they are cool. The second one, I'm like, I don't know. I mean,
it's cool to have that though.
Yeah,
it is cool to have it, especially since it's kind of shitty and they made it full red. Like the poster behind you is really, really cool. That's the poster for the second.
Yeah. Love it. That's my favorite of the posters.
Skeleton hand, the sunset, the barbed wire. I mean, that's intense. And that's the slipcover for it.
And I think that's the thing that, like, when you look at that poster and shit, and you're like, "Oh my god, Laboratory of the Devil!" Like that's whoa, sounds heavy. Yeah,
there's no way this is corny and stuff.
Yeah. But to get into Men Behind the Sun, though, I mean, what before you even watched these movies, had you heard about them in like countdown videos, people talking about disturbing movies?
It was probably with either Mood 616 or Spooky Rice that did a video about it originally, but I had been aware of like the types of death camps that would spawn up for POWs in Japan and, you know, Germany and other regions in general. Just back then it was really bad and it was well documented. Eventually, like, we all found out the truth, and the specificities of all of it, you know, you would find a lot of it first from the movies before reading like documents about how nasty things get. You kind of just hear, wow, they were doing experiments on people and mass graves and stuff. Just, you know, having all these details are real creep. But probably Spooky Rice, probably his Disturbing Breakdown 6 years ago. Or
He did a good job on him. I think he only got. I don't know if he covered the sequels, but I did see his breakdown of the first one. And
yeah,
Spooky Rice, shout out, cool dude, makes
yeah,
great content.
Spooky Rice, man.
Mm-hmm. I had heard about this movie on a channel called Emmer Provost, and he did like reaction and reviews back then. Rest in peace. I think he passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he did cover. That was the first channel that I sort of discovered extreme cinema, because at that time, that was before they started getting a lot of re-releases, and so literally back at that time, there was no way to find those movies unless you found them online somewhere to watch. But he was covering a bunch of stuff, and he had covered this movie, and what made it stick out to me was that it was based on real stuff. And before we even get into this discussion fully, I do want to stress that these movies are extremely disturbing and graphic, and they cover real things that really happen. Now, there are things that are over exaggerated in the sequels. There's things that it's like, okay, that's more story based, but mainly the first one and the fourth one are based off of real documents. And they really did. They actually got in trouble for making these movies because the government's like, how do you know about that? You can't put that into a movie. Like,
who told you that happened?
Hey, pal, you can't do that.
That's ridiculous.
They got in deep shit for making them, man. Like this, like mainly the first one. I know that the director, T.F. Mao, he got into a lot of trouble making that movie. And Philosophy of the Knife, that guy got into a lot of trouble too.
Really?
But with these movies, I mean, it kind of does, because like at that time, this stuff was being like to show it in this graphic of detail, I think was just, I mean, obviously it's completely shocking.
People are gonna be mad at us.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah, they were pretty pissed. So I honestly don't even know how the sequels became a thing. Like, I don't know if the studios just were like, hey, let's make these sequels to make them more marketable. Like, let's try to turn it into a franchise. And like we said, you can kind of tell later that they tried. But with this first movie, though, and like I said, just graphic warning, these movies are extremely disturbing. And we're going to be talking about some of the stuff in these movies. And it's real messed up stuff. But I do think these are important movies. Do you think that movies like these and Philosophy, some people might look at them as like exploitation, or like this is pointless? Or do you think it has a point in what it's doing?
It definitely has a point. Is it exploitation? Yes, technically. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's exploitation. It's also horror, those genres right there, but it's also I mean, in a way, it's not documentary. I mean, it is documentarian, or like it's historical in a lot of ways, because it's allowing you to learn about something very loosely, and to keep your attention, they are giving you that exploitive twist, like everyone who likes exploitation cinema has that little nerve that gets touched, and then you're like, oh, I think I kind of like how horrible this is, even though it's not something that you're enjoying a whole bunch when it happens, but like you feel satisfied that you're getting at least a raw interpretation of the historical events attached.
Yeah,
because no one can sit here and say that none of this didn't happen, and if anything, the documents prove that it's way worse, even though they're drawing a lot from it. I think you need something like a 4-hour plus Philosophy of a Knife to really punch home that we're not just doing this for exploitation purposes, to make that buck.
And most of that one was documentary. It was going through the history and telling you what had happened. And that like, I know that this first Men Behind the Sun movie was heavily, based on the facts, and was really following that stuff closely. But Philosophy of a Knife, they actually were able to track down people and interview these people who had been involved in some of the trials and stuff after everything had went down with Unit 731. And it really gets, And I actually do want to shout it out real quick and mention Philosophy of the Knife, and I'll bring it up right here because I have the IMDb pulled up so we can get some more information on it and everything. But we do got Philosophy of a Knife. I do want to mention this before we get in here, and that 4.4 ratings just a shame. This is a very well made documentary / film. And I would say that if you want to get into the history and knowing and seeing if this is like something that you want to actually venture into and study these films, this is a great starting point. Andrei Iskanov, very well made 4-hour independent film. And I know it took multiple years to get made. And it was just a film that he went through hell to get made, and just the certain things he puts in here, the government didn't know, like how did you get this information? Like, you can't, how are you putting this in your film? So really, I do think Philosophy of the Knife, while I do think there's a lot of things in it that like really probably don't hold up the best, probably like the special effects and stuff, but I do think that for what it is as an independent movie, it's really well made, and I would say this is a great starting point.
And government over there snitching on themselves, ain't they? They're like, how do you know this information? No one's supposed to know this.
Kind of, well, yeah. It makes you wonder why they're wanting to keep it real. Why they're wanting to keep it real under wraps, and it's because I think
want to control history.
Probably, I think so. Yeah, it has gone down a lot. I just think a lot of people look at it, and like I said before, I think people look at it and they go, "What's the point of this? Why would anybody want to watch this?" And it's like, it is showing you dramatization. It's showing you how this stuff went down, to show you just the brutality of certain things. And yes, it's very hard to watch, but
yeah, it's hard to read about though. And like, in order to get through all the shit, like it has to be this overwhelming experience. Now, do I like having to section off 4.5 hours for a movie, or like do I like the idea of possibly having to break a film experience up into 2 parts or 3 parts? No, not really. But I think they would have helped themselves by making it like a volume thing, like volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. So people wouldn't feel like this is just 4.5 hours of the worst shit ever. And it's like, it literally is.
It is.
But like, if you had a natural break in the stuff and stopped making it feel like so much as a sequel as much as a continuation, to where people would then be like, well, now I got to watch the 4.5 hour cut where it's all just one thing, you know? But yeah,
that would have helped, because you need breaks from this kind of stuff, because it's not really about story or about characters at all. Like, there's not even dialogue in that movie. It's strictly just documentary and showing you dramatizations of what's happening. And I agree with you. I think the episodic format would give people a bit of a break. Like, okay, I got the episode 1, because I had to get through part 1. And I was like, I'll take a break, because that was real heavy, and I just seen some crazy the way that part 1 ends. It's just like, yeah, I gotta take a break for a little bit, you know?
Yeah, it's too much, man.
Be a bit, it's definitely, I think out of all the movies, that one and part 4 are the hardest to get through. Part 4, because of just how I think I don't know how you feel about the franchise, but part 4 was the most difficult one to watch for me.
It was extremely rough. Extremely rough. In my opinion, I don't want to say too much about it, but it's more rough than the first Men Behind the Sun.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, man. What it covers, that event, and how they tie it into, they'll show the pictures of the real stuff, and then they'll show you the scene. And it just felt very real, and it just was so hard to fucking see that shit. And
still exploitation. Like, it's still preying on, like, yeah, doesn't this make you feel like shit? Yeah, this is real ugly. And it's not so much as like tasteful, you know? Excuse my throat. Let me.
Oh no, you're fine, man. I know the end of that fourth one too. They even bring up like there's stuff in this movie that we couldn't even do. Like it's nothing
Mhm.
compared to the real life thing. So
It
to get
literally
in
isn't.
to get
Yeah.
into the movies though, we can kick it off with the first film, Men Behind the Sun, aka Man Behind the Sun from 1988, directed by T.F. Mao.
Yes, sir.
And the quick synopsis here: Japanese troops round up Chinese and Russian prisoners of war and take them to Unit 731, where they are horribly tortured and experimented on to test new biological weapons. I'm not sure if the synopsis would really change much in the second and third and fourth one, like maybe by the fourth one, but
They'll include like the exact same stuff and then their little tidbit plot line that they threw in just to be like, see, it's a sequel.
yeah.
What's gonna happen next? Like, I give a shit.
It's sort of considered an unofficial one. A lot of people, it depends on the person. Some people don't even consider it a Man Behind the Sun movie. Some people just think it's its own thing. I look at it as its own thing in a way because it's not really connected to the Man Behind the Sun movies, but it's the same time period, same thing, same like war and everything. So I think it ties
Same
very
exact
closely
vibe.
with it.
Same
Yeah.
exact vibe. And it's on Letterboxd. They got them all grouped together at the bottom. When you scroll down,
Mhm.
it says similar films, and you assume those are like sequels or whatever in the
A-
universe.
And even here on IMDb, they have it as Men Behind the Sun 4. So even
Yeah,
on here,
maybe it was
so
like released as Men Behind the Sun. You know what? I'm gonna check
I think it might
Letterboxd
have,
real quick.
especially if back then to market that movie, they probably wanted to tie it into the franchise somehow.
Yeah, let me see details. Yeah, I mean, its alternative title is literally Men Behind the Sun 4. If it's on IMDb, like it was
Yeah.
released that way.
Yeah, so
So
that's why I decided to throw it into this discussion because it goes with these movies.
yeah,
But to talk about Men Behind the Sun 1, like I had said, I had seen this channel cover this movie, and what was interesting about it was that it was based on history. It's based on this director really wanted to go out there and make a movie about these things that had happened that at that time were hidden. Like no one really knew about this. No one was really, there was not a lot of information at the time about what was going on
yeah,
during World War II, and just how the Japanese at this time were looking at people as no longer humans. Like these are logs. In the movie, they literally call them logs.
yeah.
And
Marats, I
yeah,
believe.
it's just such a dark tale, but I think also the movie does serve as something where you can look at it and see like, okay, so the moment you strip humanity away from people, stuff like this can happen. And it's something that I think could be a warning. Like, let's never ever let something like this happen again. And it's it's a real rough movie. It follows these younger soldiers, these pretty much these kids getting
Yeah,
trained by the Japanese, and they're being told about the Marutos, the logs, which they call the Chinese Russian. I think it's Chinese and Russians that they have there at this camp.
yeah.
And you're just seeing these young kids get taught the ways that they are taught, and you see the various torture methods, and it gets really heavy. And I think the special effects in this movie are pretty amazing. And for the most part, what's shocking about this movie is that some of these aren't special effects.
Yeah.
What a lot of it, they went out and got like real cadavers, and like the degloving scene was an actual real corpse that they degloved.
And you can like feel like the weightiness of it all, like when when something is real, like it
Mhm.
has weight to it. When it's
Yeah.
practical, it feels like it kind of falls apart the way it's supposed to. And when it's CGI, it's just like, you can always tell
Mhm.
when it's computer, but like the weightiness of real flesh moving off of a bone, or the way the when they have the child cadaver later on
Mhm.
in the film, which is just so disturbing.
Yeah.
They got permission to use a child's corpse and perform an autopsy or
Which
film
I
an
don't know how the hell
autopsy.
they did that. Like,
Well, I'm pretty sure like there's cuts like from when they're actually cutting the child corpse, and then when they're showing like the characters, the actors, in there doing it. So I
Mhm.
imagine that's like how they pulled all that off. I doubt they were actually like all just in the room.
Yeah,
Like,
I
and the
hope
actors are
not.
like, so I just cut his fucking
Oh
stomach
god.
open. And
Yeah, I hope not. So what I want
nah,
the shot right
yeah.
here. All right, this is what you're gonna do. It's like, wait, what?
Do I have to wear these gloves? Like, just stupid shit. Yeah.
That would be
No,
fucking crazy if that shit happened.
that's bro, but that's the way a lot of people view Men Behind the Sun. They view it as like this lawless movie where it's like they just did the worst shit in the world. When in reality, like they got permission and they did it as ethically as you possibly could. I think like the only time they really crossed a line was when they set those rats on fire. That was
Yeah, the
pretty
cat
fucked up.
too, because they still don't know to this day if the cat was real or if
The
it
cat
was.
was nah.
There was some people that say the cat wasn't really killed, that it was
It wasn't even
they.
being hurt.
No, it was like they put some kind of like honey or something all over the cat, and the rats were just like
Yeah.
messing with it. It wasn't hurting the cat.
So the rats don't like the fake blood, but they like the honey. So they put the mixture on the cat to make it wet and whatnot.
Mm.
The cat was chilling, it was tired, and the rats aren't like wild rats, so they're not gonna swarm and
Yeah,
just
just
chew up
devour a cat
anything. Yeah.
instantly.
It's not like Willard. It's
Yeah.
like these are rats. So the rats don't want to die from this powerful ass cat because cats are still cats.
Yeah.
And the cat's chilling, like so the rats are there's one shot where you get a real zoom in look on the cat, and if your brain is really wrapped up in the movie thinking this animal's being hurt, you're already like, oh my god, that poor baby's resigned to its death. I know that look, but honey, I feel so bad for that cat. But like, okay, if you really look at it, the rats are like nibbling, like little licks. They're
Yeah.
licking the cat, so feels good for the cat actually.
And the cat's
And,
just
like,
chilling at the end of that clip. When the
he's
scene's over,
literally
he's just laying there,
chilling.
just you
And
could tell the cat's fine.
that's where people like lean into it, and that's where a lot of the hate comes from for this movie. They think this cat got fucking eaten alive by live rats, and what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I know that was like one of the very big infamous scenes that a lot of people were talking about. And I remember when I got to that scene, I'm like, well, the cat doesn't seem like it's getting hurt. Like it's just laying there and
Yeah,
just looking around. Like
they
I,
might have
I don't know.
got the cat to scurry through the rats, which made it appear as though the cat was being eaten
Yeah.
alive.
It's a
But
well done scene. It's
it
very
really
well
is.
done pulled off because it's like no CG, not a fake cat, real rat. It's just
Yeah,
to do it real. I think a lot of these scenes doing it real, even with them using the cadavers, it brings a new
yeah,
layer to the movie. Because with Philosophy of the Knife, you can tell a lot of it. It looks like rubber, looks like
yeah.
plastic, looks like water, even at times. And I'm like, it doesn't even look like blood. It looks like water or something. So
At least they shot that one in black and white.
yeah,
They kind of saved themselves with that move.
yeah, I think so. Because if you would have shot that with all the color in there, it would have stuck out even more.
Yeah,
But
it would have been too exploitative. That's where it would cross the line because it's like not only is it kind of lower budget, but I can see the color. Gross. That looks like shit. Black and
although
white hides it.
I think the pressure chamber is way more disturbing than this. I think it's disturbing in that too. It's fucked up, but in this, like, it is so fucking haunting, and it's just so hard to watch.
How do you think they did that? I have one theory on how they pulled that effect off. There's probably an answer out there online, but
Well, it looked like they might have built some kind of suit around the guy, and they were probably using like pressurized air to bubble up the skin. As far as the intestine just shooting out
the butt. Yeah.
I have no clue because I was
How
sitting
the
there like,
hell?
oh my god, dude!
Because it looks like some entrails. It looks like some intestine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if they didn't since they had access to cadavers, I'm wondering if they didn't do exactly what you're saying, like with the pressurized shit, but through an actual intestine, and
I think they could have
gave that
it's
dude
like
a fake
bubbling
butt.
and shit too. I don't know how they pulled that off.
Yeah, it curled naturally.
Yeah,
like it was coming out of.
It's probably is the most fucked up, that and like the child scene where because this kid, you get introduced to this kid like at the beginning of the movie, and he sort of becomes friends with the younger soldiers, at least one
Yeah.
of them, and they're throwing this ball back and forth. And I think the kid's even like deaf, like he can't talk, right? Or
No, well, I actually can't remember.
yeah,
I
some
don't
with the kid
recall him
where he
talking
couldn't
too
talk,
much. Yeah, he
and
wasn't saying much.
but he just feels so bad for this kid because he's just smiling, having fun, and it's
Maybe
a
he was dead.
hopeful scene where the kid, the Japanese kid is throwing the ball at this Chinese kid, and they're having fun. They're being friends, and
Yeah.
it's a real good moment. But then later, when this kid gets operated on, and it's so fast, it's
It's so
like,
fast, like they were like waiting to do it. You know
mm,
what I mean? Because like
but
honestly,
yeah,
it's set up like they're about to like abuse the kid. You know what I mean? Like in that way. But like it's not for that. It's literally they prey on him so they can cut him open and salvage his organs. And like
mm,
it's set up so creepy because the whole movie they've been literally saying, like, indoctrinating themselves into believing that the Chinese are material. They're like
mm,
wood. They're like a pile of wood. Like you build a table with them. Like they're
yeah,
nothing. So like, yeah, that really it really punched it home. That and like what really disturbs me is like the thoughtless killing of babies. Like
yeah,
just in the beginning, they bury a newborn in the fucking snow and just like walk away. It sets such a cold fucking
it
tone
does.
for this
And
movie. It's snowing and
whenever there's a
shit.
death that happens, they show like a name pop up, and it says
Yeah.
date of birth, when they died, and
Six
who they
months
were.
old or some shit.
Yeah, that's haunting too, because it's
Yeah.
again, TF Mao.
Humanizing it.
What he was able to do with this in the fourth one is tie in what you're seeing on screen to the real shit, and be like, this isn't just dramatization. This really happened.
Yeah.
Like this isn't just part of the story. Like
Like
this was a
they're
real victim.
depicting the dehumanization, and like artistically they are humanizing it all instead of
Mm,
just being straight exploitation.
yep. Yeah, and I think too the another good moment in the film is when they rebel against their would it be their sergeant, and
Yeah.
they're wearing the gas mask and they're beating them up in the shower room. I think that was a good scene too.
Yeah. For a
Um,
moment. For a moment.
yeah,
And then the shit comes back.
yeah. I
There's
think
some
there's a
other
lot of powerful scenes in here, man.
Mhm.
I think too it looks like it looks very realistic. Like it doesn't look cheap or
It does.
fake. It just looks real.
There's a scene that I wasn't too like sold on. It's when they gas the mother and child, the Russian mother and child together. There's a scene where they're like chained together in this room,
Mm,
and they put some gas out there. I assume it's toxic gas,
mm.
and it suffocates them. And I don't know, I just felt like it wasn't done to the same level as everything else.
Yeah. I think
I
it
feel
too,
like
you
it's
could
been
just
more
tell,
violent.
like, you could still see them moving, and it just didn't seem very
Yeah,
realistic.
they weren't really they weren't putting their best foot forward, man. I want y'all to die like with passion. No, it didn't take me. It took me out a little bit because like they didn't get the same treatment as everybody else. It felt like it
Mm.
was weird.
I think the ending's very powerful too in this movie because
Yeah, I
it
was about to
ends with
say
someone almost surviving, you
it's a
know?
Christmas movie, dude.
Technically, yeah.
Technically a
Technically.
Christmas movie. It ends
What
with
a
Silent Night and like shows like the juxtaposition between, I guess, is it Americans that were celebrating Christmas?
mm,
And then it switched over to what's going on in Japan, all these
mhm.
fucked up dudes who just murdered all these people. I know that's not where you were going, but that ending really struck me.
Well, it is very powerful because they realize they have to get out of there. They have to clear this
Mhm.
camp out, and there is almost a survivor. Like he makes it through most of the movie until the very
Yeah,
end, and you
to the very
have
end.
this real disturbing image of the Japanese flag being used to impale someone and the blood going on
Mhm.
the Japanese flag. And I thought just the way that that was done, it was just
Mhm.
it's just such a powerful image. And
It's literally staining the flag.
Mhm.
The Japanese forever historically
Mm.
symbolism.
Subtle.
Yeah, very very subtle. You stab
Yeah.
somebody with the flag, and the blood gets on the flag.
Yeah, but I thought the ending shot too of like the what's the guy's name? He's in all these movies, same
He
actor
literally
too.
is. Yeah,
I forgot the character's name, but he's the general character, and
I know who you're talking. He's got the glasses and shit.
he's in all three of these first ones, and he
Yeah.
sends them off, and all you really get with the end credits is just like wind, snow, and him standing there, and this
Hmm.
train just going off into the distance. I thought that was a perfect way to end the movie.
He's like ready for
Um,
part two.
yeah, let me go get my cheaper costume on. I was like, man, this costume, the
Yeah.
second was like cost $5.
Whenever this train comes back, just know there's a sequel.
Before we move on to the second one, though, what'd you think
Yeah.
about that weird scene where he like pisses into that filter, and because the guy I guess was like saying, "Oh, his filtering system doesn't work," so he's like, "Oh, it doesn't work,
Yeah,
does
yeah.
it?"
That's a really good scene, and I liked how they showed these people. I like that we didn't get to really know them. We just got to know that they were batshit crazy, and they just like really wanted to do shit to hurt people all the fucking time, and it was just like that
Mm.
was their normalized culture in that work environment. Like I loved how casually they talked about we need more bacteria. Like it's always like we need more bacteria to hurt people. Like every other fucking scene is a
Yeah,
conversation about this. Like, god damn, dude. I don't want like what they did in the sequels, but like I thought that was like a hilarious bit of redundancy, you
yeah,
know?
like all the dialogue is just whatever the torturing is going on in that. It's like none of these people are humanized at all.
Yeah, and they're just like coming up with shit, like the pissing in the filter, like to test the shit. Like, yeah, dude, they're always
Yeah.
pulling something out their ass, trying to make an innovation.
Mm.
It's all for naught.
But overall, though, I mean, what's your kind of closing thoughts on Men Behind the Sun 1? As I think it's a really well made movie, and I loved it. I think for as dark as the subject matter is, it's an extremely hard movie to sit through, obviously. But I did think the look of it, the locations, the effects that we did get, but also the utilization of them using these corpses made it look even more real, and everything
Yeah,
felt authentic for the most part. There may have been a few things here and there that looked a little weird or off, but I just think when you watch this one and then you watch the sequels, you just see a big difference.
yeah, it's a huge difference, huge difference. Yeah, 1988's Men Behind the Sun. I gave this 4 stars on Letterboxd. I think that's about where my enjoyment was. Nice 8 out of 10. It's fantastic, and everything that you said, I'll double up on that as well. It's it's innovative. I think it gets a really bad rap simply
Mhm.
because it took some creative chances, and it's easy to poke holes at. But I think it accomplishes a lot in a short amount of time in as best tone as it possibly could have. Everything else is kind of off in certain ways, but I think Men Behind the Sun stands out as the better of this Unit 71 sphere we have going
Yeah.
on, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think, it does sort of upset me that most people just sort of disregard this movie, and they just sort of go,
Yeah.
"Eh, it's exploitation, it's nothing, it's."
And they want to believe that the worst things that they're thinking about a movie is the truth, even when they get information that proves them otherwise. And I think that's another reason why I don't get it, but it's a certain headspace where
Mm.
you just believe the worst, you
Yeah, it's
know?
real unfortunate, but luckily that I
Yeah.
do think it's cool that they're giving these movies a mainstream release now, because I don't think these are gonna
Oh
go out of
yeah.
print. These are there. So, I
Good.
like how people can go out and get this movie now.
Hmm. Yeah, at
For
least the first one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, like, the first one, I think is really important. It should be widely available to people. So, I think it's pretty cool that that got heavy, distribution from Massacre Video, And yeah, Men Behind the Sun 1, it's a great movie. Really,
Great
really good
movie.
film. Moving on to the sequel, Corey's favorite, the best sequel ever.
The good one.
Oh my God. We're getting
Yeah,
to
Maruta 2,
Maruta.
Laboratory of the Devil
Oh
from
yeah.
1992. Hai Tai Yang 731. We lit. That's a pretty cover, man.
Yeah, when you look at the poster, you're just sort of like, oh, dude, it's called Laboratory of the Devil. The poster is really wicked looking,
Yeah.
and I had never knew there were sequels until later videos I had seen covered that there were sequels. And I thought it was pretty cool that Massacre Video did give these the proper Blu-ray releases that could go well with the first one. They all go together really well as a set. And Men Behind the Sun 2 is basically a lower budget, less well done version of the first movie, except you throw in a love story and you throw in a bunch of other side plots and you try to fill this movie out with extra stuff, and it just isn't very good to me. I'm not a big fan of this one. I thought it was disappointing. I think there may be a couple scenes that I didn't mind, but overall I just thought it was huge step down in quality. And it was shocking to me, like how everything from the costumes to the way the camp looks to some of the special effects, some of the editing is real bad in this movie. So I definitely think it was a step down. But what's your thoughts on the second one?
Shit, man. I mean, I'm feeling the same thing. I wasn't feeling the melodrama that they shoehorned into this film for the sake of what they chose not to do in the first one, which was really expand stories about these generals and these soldiers and these prisoners, because you're taking too many liberties, and that takes away from like what's entertaining about Men Behind the Sun. You know what I mean? Because I doubt I'd be like witnessing melodrama if I were actually plopped into 731 as a fly on the wall. And I think just Men Behind the Sun 2 it's a bad sequel. It misses the mark. It doesn't make any point. They reuse the same like types of gags that they do in Men Behind the Sun original, without like the ones that clearly took effort. They don't repeat, but like cutting somebody open and playing around in their stomachs and shit, they do that. I'm pretty sure is part 2 the one where the guy's fed some watermelon and he bleeds out his eyes and ears and shit, or is that the third one?
I think it's this one.
Yeah, that's like the only scene that I can actually remember from Men Behind the Sun 2. I could probably like fill in the blanks as you describe it, but like as far as standout scenes, that's the only one. Everything else is just a repeat.
Yeah, they redid the scene from the first one with the porcelain bombs, which I don't know if I mentioned it in the first one, but that was a great scene where they're dropping the porcelain bombs and the dudes are escaping and they almost get out. And the way that's all pulled off, it's a really well done scene. Here, it's like a 2-minute scene and they just show it real quick and the makeup looks real bad and everything looks cheap. And
they did the hand degloving.
They did that again. I don't think it
that was so good. Fucking lame to like put that in the beginning, because that's one of the first gags you see in the first Men Behind the Sun. So it literally it feels from the jump like a remake for some reason, like an Evil Dead 2, but not cool.
And it's weird because at the end of the first one, it's like, how do you make a sequel to that? Because the movie ends with them destroying the lab and them sending everybody away. I guess you could look at these sequels as like, this one is an in-between movie and the next one is the real sequel. Like this one could be, this is what happened before the ending of the first movie. Although even to do that would be kind of confusing because the kid characters are not in this movie. The lab looks way more cheap. You have a lot of cutaway scenes where this dude is in love with this girl and she's over here in this city and her father becomes involved in this somehow. It's so much side shit. And I'm like, I don't know if it was because they Yeah, it's like I don't know if they wanted to make it into a franchise, so they were like, well, we gotta if we're gonna do it, make it mainstream, we gotta add more melodrama and stuff in there.
It's
And
weird because where's the fucking putting their names up and being like, this is what happened to this person? You can't do that with this one because you're just making
yeah,
shit up. Like, I
out
don't
of
believe
nowhere.
that none of this shit happened. Like, I'm sure maybe there was some drama, but you're making all this shit up.
And they
And
do
I don't,
all this building for just the way it ends. The way it
yeah,
ends is
it's
lame.
duh.
Yeah,
Like, how else are these gonna end? You
yeah,
lose.
I was like sort of thinking like they're like, we're gonna get everybody out of here. I'm like, you're
You're
surrounded.
not.
What are you thinking? And they're all
It's
like, we're gonna
horrible.
charge. I'm like, dude, that's not what he so the ending to me,
Shame on the movies.
I was like, what were y'all thinking? But
Dog.
yeah, it's not a very good sequel, man. The way it ends is very downbeat, but not even downbeat in a way where like it could be haunting or you're thinking about it 5 months from now. It's like downbeat as in we don't know how to
Okay,
end
it's
this
over.
movie. Yeah, so
Yeah.
let's just have everybody just get killed and that's it.
Yeah.
And
Didn't they shoot them all? They just shot them all.
everyone, yeah, they
Yeah,
shot
they just
all
shot
the
everybody.
characters.
Yeah. I'm like trying to make. Yeah, I remember this scene, how it ended. Yeah, they just shot everybody. They brought them outside. It's like, whoa, I'm so shocked that that's how you did it.
Yeah, and they're like,
It's
"Oh my
almost
god,
like
there's an ambush out here. It's supposed to be a twist, like
I thought
ending."
they were all going to escape and
Yeah.
survive and rewrite history.
Right, yeah, gonna
But
break
once upon a
everyone
time
out of the camp.
in Japan, shit, man, no
Yeah.
such luck, unfortunately.
Not a very good movie, man. Weird stuff with this edition too, because I wonder if this movie was
Really?
cut down or something, because the version I was watching here, this Blu-ray version, it's an HD quality for most of the movie. But then whenever gore happens, it gets grainy, it gets a little it looks
Oh,
like they went and got a work print copy. So I was like,
interesting.
was that
How long
cut?
is it? How long is it?
This one is about, let me get it pulled up here because I think
We'll pull up my
it's
version.
really not that long. This so over here on IMDb it's an hour and 36. So I don't know if this one would be longer if they added more gore into it.
Is that 92? 1992?
90,
Yeah.
yeah, 1992, 93 minutes long for this one.
Okay. I'm searching online, like cross-referencing. So I watched the cut version, I think. I might have watched a cut version. I don't know.
Possibly, because I was just watching like, wow, every gore scene is like grainy and it looks like My Bloody Valentine where they add the gore back in, but it's all looking, and they could tell that they didn't have the sound because they had the dub in stuff too, so it real
Damn,
off-putting.
really?
But also, I don't know if it's this edition or just the movie. There's copyrighted music in this movie from Nightmare on Elm Street.
What?
Like, the soundtrack from Nightmare on Elm Street is in the background of this movie as a separate track. Like, there's the regular track, then there's another, like, there's a track with music already in it. Then there's a background track, and I'm listening, I'm like, what is that music? You could barely hear it, but if you listen closely, it's the chase music from Nightmare on Elm Street, where he's chasing her through the alley, and then they have all this music from Nightmare on Elm Street, mainly the first one. I'm like, what?
So they really pulled this one out their ass.
Basically, I don't know how the fuck they did that. I was like,
It must be like because I'm looking online and like my little sources and shit, and I did have trouble finding a decent version of this movie. I'm pretty sure maybe let me check on YouTube because I watched this on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Laboratory of the Devil. Yeah, uploaded a year ago, hour 34 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I assume I watched the proper version. I didn't notice any of the music, but maybe I was so bored I was tuning shit out. Like it might be a direct Blu-ray rip. I don't know.
The only reason why I noticed it is because there was a regular audio track there where the music was there, but then it sounded like they dubbed in extra music in the background. So I was like, what is that background shit I'm hearing? Like, what is that noise? I couldn't figure out
other
the
audio
noise
tracks.
I don't know if this is a remastered one. It might be just the regular mono on this Blu-ray, but it was
Either
weird.
way, the film's hard to find.
Yeah, it's very weird. So I don't know if that was, I don't know what the hell that's all about. But closing thoughts, Men Behind the Sun 2, not as good as the first one, probably the worst one in this series, and I'm not gonna revisit it that much. So it is what it is. It's not that good. Huge drop in quality. Not a big
Would
fan
you
of
rate
this
it
one.
on Letterboxd again?
I think I gave it like a 2 out of 5.
You gave it a 2. Yeah, I gave it a 2.5.
Yeah, not a very good one. And moving into this one, Men Behind the Sun 3, A Narrow Escape, which I at first was kind of moving into this one. I was like, oh God, like this one's gonna be terrible. I'm not looking forward to this one at all. And I was just really, really not looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And I think I forgot to read the synopsis for the second one. I mean, I don't
It
think
doesn't
it
matter.
really
We did
matters.
a good job at filling in the blanks. So for anyone that was wondering, the second one, it's a soldier who is trying to break his fiance, who happens to be a prisoner, out of 731, and that's it. It's dumb.
Mm.
And
Pretty much everything else is just rinse repeat from the first movie.
Yeah, authority and humanity.
Which is what I thought this one would be. I thought this one would be another case of copy and paste. But however, this one is very different. The synopsis for this one is: during the shutdown and destruction of the Japanese test camp Squadron 731 in Manchuria, a soldier becomes infected with the virus developed during the camp's testing and risks spreading it into Japan and on the train ride home.
Yeah.
So this one's a lot more of a different type of movie. This one, Men Behind the Sun 3, is much more of an escape movie, I describe, and more of a virus outbreak movie, which was real different. And I must say, I didn't hate this movie at all. I actually thought it was okay. Like I didn't mind it. I don't think it's nearly as good as the first one or the one after this, but I thought it was a little bit of a step up from part 2. I thought the story was interesting, where they take it where it is interesting, where it's like, okay, this person's infected with this virus. They're on this train trying to get back to Japan, and one by one they get infected. They stop at certain places, and there are riots happening, and there's not a whole lot of like torture stuff in this movie. It's not really about the gore and stuff. It's more about like,
it's just interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot more about like the suspense of wondering where this virus is going to spread next. Most of your special effects are on the virus victims, and I think they reuse a lot of footage from part 2 at the very beginning, which I thought they couldn't. I wish they didn't do that, honestly, because
just so you know, it's a sequel. You like the last one, right?
We got to get a recap, just in case you're lost here. Here's a recap.
Oh shit!
But they reuse footage from the second one, which I thought was real weird. But in this one, it becomes a chase movie too, because the commander, who's from the first 2, is back in this one, begins to chase this train down and figure out, okay, who's infected. We got to kill off who's ever infected. And it becomes a really interesting plot. And it's an okay movie. It's all right. I think it's passable. It's serviceable. Yeah. It's there. I don't think it's as bad as the second one, but it's not as good as the other ones. Didn't mind this lead character who is seeing all this going on around him, and it's kind of bounces back and forth between different characters, because you get this girl who's, you find out, was originally from Korea, and she's trying to get home and survive this as well. You have this one character who's sort of one of the leads, but you look at it as, is this character a unlikable character or a likable character? And that's the balance of this movie, is getting to know these characters, the Japanese soldiers, and wondering in your head, okay, is this character worth following as a character, or likable, or like, is this character just like, worried about killing people and stuff? So I think a lot of the dialogue was interesting, and it was different. I didn't mind it. It was all right. It's not many special effects. A lot of the special effects used are like action scenes. of explosions, lots of um,
Exploders.
explosions, and a lot of firefights and stuff like that. But yeah, what's your thoughts on part three, man? I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it either. We rated it the same, 3 stars. And I think that's just like it's just passing. It's still not exactly like something I'd want to sit through and watch. It at least the story feels like the stakes are more believable because they did spend like this whole first movie like going on about we need more bacteria, and it's like now you got the bacteria and it's like you're scared it's going to blow up in your face. And I can hang with melodrama with the best of them. I love a good TV movie. I love a good drama. I love just sometimes it's just it feels out of place, and it still feels out of place in A Narrow Pass, like to the point where I felt like why does this even exist? I just I don't know. I wasn't feeling it as much to where I was retaining a lot. Like it feels like a one-off. It
Yeah.
feels like a side story. It feels like something that isn't rooted in much reality, but it does feel a little bit more believable than the second one. So of the two, I definitely would rather sit through A Narrow Pass as opposed to a Laboratory of the Devil.
Mm,
Um, the train bits, it would have been cool just like if they wanted to do a straight drama and just remove the generals and their pursuit being also back and forth between the two. If it was just like a train drama and like an understanding of one's fate and like they took it like super serious, that would be cool. But
mm.
it's Behind the Sun 3. It's not that at all.
Yeah,
So
I think they had a difficult time trying to tie this back into Men Behind the Sun
yeah.
because it doesn't have much to do with the Unit 731 stuff. And
It's a good story, but like it's out of place. It's in the
yeah,
wrong
yeah, I think it's definitely to follow those first two movies. It's the one that tries to be different, but at the same time, the argument could be, is this even really a Men Behind the Sun movie? Because
Yeah.
it doesn't do much. Like it's nothing different than something you would see like another movie. If it would have been just called A Narrow Escape, you would
Yeah.
never know it's a Men Behind the Sun
It's
movie.
this just clicked for me. Like the title, like A Narrow Escape, it feels like it's for the prisoners, but it also kind of feels like a narrow escape. Like the fucking bad guys had a brush with consequence.
Mm.
Like the shit almost blew up in their face. They almost had like a plague outbreak. So, I mean, the narrow escape kind of feels like it's on their end because it's not like the prisoners really like I mean, Behind the Sun 1 and 2. It's not like things turn out great for them by the end.
Mm-mm. No,
So,
no, and I don't really even think you see much of the whole prisoner thing in this movie. I think there's a scene where
not really.
they track down the train conductor and they torture him. I think they actually give him a shot of like the plague as well. And
Yeah, they do.
that was
Yeah.
fucked up. They're like, don't even kill him. Here, just give him this. I'm like,
It's
oh
fucking
shit.
stupid, bro. Like it makes no sense. It just
They
makes
just
no
have a
sense.
syringe of the bubonic plague in his
Yeah,
pocket.
it's the
Here you
most
go.
dangerous thing. We're hunting down a train to stop one guy we think is infected, but I have it in my pocket too. It's okay. It's in a vial.
Yeah. We ain't gonna worry
Fucking
about
dumb.
dropping it or anything.
Yeah, it's not gonna like come loose with your fucking 1940s lid.
I thought it was kind of stupid in the beginning too, because they're destroying the lab, and how this plague even spreads is someone steps on a vial and it cuts through their hazmat suit and they get infected. And I'm like, is your hazmat suit made out of paper? Like,
Yeah, like everything's shit over here. Y'all are killing all these people, but you can't afford clothes.
and they're over
Is it-
here smashing away the glass with like these brooms and pipes, and I'm like, just shoot the glass. Why are you going up to it? And this real dangerous, like bubonic plague type of stuff. We're gonna
Yeah.
break it away with like clubs and stuff.
Why do you have it if
Yeah.
you're not allowed to? If this wasn't the intention, like his, you can't just inject people with a fucking plague and be like, our plague is good. But they're like, no, it's not supposed to hit us. It's supposed to go to China.
Right.
No, it's fucking dumb, bro.
Yeah. So that
It's
part of the story was a little weird.
yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah, Men
it's
Behind the Sun 3,
yeah,
it's serviceable. It's a movie. You know, I think it's only like an hour and a half, so you sit down and get through it real quick. If you're expecting gore and craziness in this, it's not really about that. I really do think the studio, which I don't even know who the hell released these movies, but I do
Miramax, bro.
wonder
No, I'm
what's
kidding.
that?
I said Miramax, bro.
Miramax.
No,
Harvey Weinstein's like, let's pick this up.
he's like, yeah.
Great shit. But yeah, I do wonder if the studio is like, look, we got to get more money out of this, so let's just tone back on the gore and the craziness and more about the story and the characters. But
Did it
yeah,
work? Did they make more money on this one?
I don't think so. I don't think I doubt any of these movies were massive hits. They're probably going to make most of the money now that these releases are out there and stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. It's funny.
But moving on from this one, we of course are going to the unofficial sequel, Men Behind the Sun 4, aka Black Sun: The Nanking Massacre, which is about it says here in 1937, Japanese troops raided the Chinese city of Nanking to execute a planned massacre by subjecting over 300,000 helpless civilians to various tortures and atrocities before slaughtering them. That's like the most awful fucking synopsis you can read. Like, it's very, very to the point. Like, okay, this is just, you're going to be watching a goddamn freaking massacre, and that's what it is. But of course, this is based off of Nanjing, which is a real thing that happened during World War II, where, just like the plot says, Japanese soldiers rolled into a city and began to commit genocide and do a
Of
lot of war
civilians.
atrocity on civilians. And
Horrible.
monks, Buddhist monks were also involved, children, and there's a scene with the pregnant lady, which was based off of a real thing that happened. So
Yeah.
that, you know, which is definitely, when we bring up the exploitation factor, like they definitely use that as exploit, because they put that all over the poster of like
Oh yeah.
the soldier with the baby on the bayonet. I'm like, why? That's just part of the marketing all the time with it. But this one to me is the hardest to get through. It was the one that everybody warned me about. They were like, look, if you're gonna get through Men Behind the Sun, that fourth one is real tough to get through. And I think it was. I think this story is just so tragic, and it is such a heavy, heavy plot. But I do think that, once again, this movie does have historical value, and it needed to be shown. I think after you watch this movie, you really say to yourself, like, this can never happen again. Like, we can never, no matter where it is, we cannot let it get this bad again, you know?
I'm sorry.
Oh my
It was
God.
how you were like, we're not doing that again.
Yeah.
It's the fucking genocide. It's like, I wish.
Well, I
that
just think,
were-
as
I wish it were
humanity
that.
looking at it,
Yeah.
it's just like,
No
what?
one wants this to happen.
Yeah,
It's
what?
horrible what it
It's
does.
terrible, man. And it's just
It's the worst.
something that you look at this movie, and um after you watch it, there are certain scenes that, to me, really, really stuck with me.
Yeah, that's
Most of the ending was really haunting. Um, there is one scene I want to mention, though. One scene that I thought was not only my favorite scene of the movie, but like one of my all-time like favorite scenes. And it's the scene where these people are walking the corpses out of the city, because most of the soldiers were just going to keep the corpses on the streets. They didn't care.
Mhm.
But these people go in there, and they're volunteers, and they volunteer to take these corpses out. And there's a scene where the lead guy of this group is carrying a dead baby, and the Japanese soldier stops him and throws the baby's corpse on the ground and shoots it. But the guy picks it back up and just walks right past him. I thought that was a really good scene, and it's really powerful. Really, really, it's horrible. But it was a scene to show the Japanese soldiers, like, you're not going to stop what we're doing. Like, we're going to keep doing this thing, and you're not going to stop us.
It's disgusting. It's horrible.
Mm.
And I mean, it could have been so much worse. The film, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it literally is the worst shit to ever read about. It bums you out. Um, there was a lot of, I'm gonna say the word, there was a lot of rape in the
Mhm.
Nanjing massacre.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of that happening or like being
Mm.
hinted at in this film. It pretty much stuck to just the
Well, they
actual
hint that at that
violence and death.
family. They hint
They
the
did,
family
yeah.
with the grandma. I was like, "Oh my god, dude!"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, but it could have been so much like debaucherous in the
mm,
streets, horrible, horrible things.
mm,
And I think that's what kept it from being like really, really talked about. Like, I mean, this is already a very raw film, and it's talking about raw things, but yeah, I think adding that sexual depravity to this because that's exactly what it was. Like tens of thousands of women being assaulted,
mm.
girls being assaulted, horrible things. It would have pushed it over the edge. As is the most horrible things are happening to these very very innocent pleading people, and they're butchered with laughs, and it's just the hardest shit to accept while you're watching. This one really stuck with me as just really capturing the the loss of humility. Like it's just all gone. It's just so cold. The scene that stuck to me, I told it to you. I mentioned it in the review on Letterbox, where they're with the family and they drop that baby in the pot of boiling water and close the top and just like they're laughing and joking about it in front of the mom. That is horrible, horrible shit. And yeah, those are scenes that stick with you. You
Mm.
know, like it was just really terrible.
And you have a lot of the like American representatives there. People are trying to stop everything that's happening. But the crazy thing is, like, they even have
Mm.
like at one point there's a German there, and even he's like, "What's going on? Like, why? What are these people? This genocide?" And it's
Yeah,
weird because you figured he would like be like, this is happening over where we're at too. But like,
but
I
not like that.
but not
Not
like
like that.
that. Yeah, this was just senseless. Like they were just going through, and because they
This is
felt like it
demonic,
would.
like
Yeah.
in ways that feels personal. Like it's not so much like the government and the military is all fucked up and they're weaponizing you, but this feels like the worst people you know getting to do whatever they want to people that they've been told are not even people.
Mhm.
You know, it's
Yeah,
just
and like
sick.
the fact that there's supposed to be this safe zone that people can go to, like, okay, you can't cross this, but the
Yeah,
Japanese don't care. They like
they
break the
don't care.
American flag apart, and they're like, there's no lines here for us, you know. Which
American flag apart.
yeah, let's do this.
That's
Oh,
funny. Just so you know,
they're
we
the
be blowing
villains.
shit up.
No, but it's
Yeah.
like no limits. No limits here. This is not just a normal war. This was genocide, and it was says it in the movie. It was a massacre. And there's a scene where they have like they talk about the beheading competitions. They don't show a lot of them. They really don't. If
No,
you
they
think
don't.
about it, they really don't show a lot of them. But there's a scene that's edited extremely well where it's a big buildup. He's sharpening the sword. He walks over. The dude's just sitting there, holds the sword up, and when he goes for the kill, it shows a picture of like a real
Yep.
beheading, and it's like, oh my god, like that. And they do a lot of that in this movie, the same things that he did in the first one, the first Men Behind the Sun. He kind of brings that back with, you'll
Mhm.
see the text pop up and you can read about this person goes
Mhm.
away, or a lot of the pictures, a lot of real footage,
Yeah.
and so it
Real footage of them on the operating tables and shit.
yeah.
Or the
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought it was just it was, you could argue it as exploitation, but I think I agree with you. I think it could have been done a lot more worse. It could have showed a
I
lot
think
more.
yeah, of all the ones, like I think this might be the best one behind Men Behind the Sun,
Mm,
in my opinion. I think it's like it could all honestly be neck and neck. Like
mm,
really, they could each equally serve their purpose. Like you could just double feature those and get what you need. I'd skip the fucking middle two,
yeah.
honestly. No offense.
Well, I think even TF Mao, he looks at the sequels and he's like, those don't count. Like, this is the
Yeah.
real sequel. Don't worry about those. And I understand why he feels like that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. He got a bag, you know. Yeah, it's really horrible. Yeah,
Yeah. The
the
bayonet
bayonet.
scene was extremely shocking, and um it would go on to be the most, like, I guess, like, talked about iconic scene from the movie is that, because
Yeah.
everybody talks about that. But I thought the scene that made me just sort of sit there and go, while I was watching it, was the beach scene where they're like talking the commanders, because you get a lot of scenes of the commanders talking like, what are we going to do with all these bodies, and they're on the streets, and what are we going to do, and they're like, well, put them on the beach, and they line
Yeah.
up all these bodies on a beach, and they light them all on fire. And the
Yeah.
way they shoot that scene, it's a scene from hell. Like, if I think if you were in hell, that'd be something that you would see, basically. And the way that that's shot, with no CGI, no green screen, no big over the top special effects, just it being done on location and looking real, it just
There's
really fucking haunted me.
thousands of live cadaver bodies used to burn
I
in
hope
this
not.
scene. They're all there. No,
No,
they
it's
weren't.
not. They're these mannequins.
That'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, that'd be
We got
horrible.
permission. We got permission.
Guys, we got the papers. It's like, oh god.
Yeah. No.
No limits for y'all, man. Then the Italians are over here like, we have an animal over here. Let's shoot this.
Yeah, right.
Let's kill
Bring me
this and
that
put it in a
turtle.
movie.
You see what they did in Japan?
Over here watching, like, as I watching Eaten Alive, I'm like, oh, this is a good movie. Let's just show an alligator being killed slowly. I'm like, oh my god, why?
Well, it's okay. We'll tell them it was for soup. It was okay. We ate it.
Guys, it was all eaten, no worries. But
We made sandwiches. So just as you would when you're hungry for a sandwich, you punch a gator to death
oh my god.
and eat it.
Thank God that shit ain't happening in the fucking movies anymore, man.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
But this one, man, just fucking the ending too, because there's like one survivor in this whole movie, and it's this little kid, and it's fucked because you think that because there's a family that gets attacked at the very beginning of the movie, and the only people that make it out is the young grandson. He's like a teenage grandson and his two siblings. And the grandson is kind of the lead through the most of the movie. You see him walking around, it's through his point of view, but by the end, he does get killed. And then you get the idea that these two kids are left, and the grandma is ready to die. Like, she's just like, I'm ready to go. And the grandson escapes from this house, but the house catches on fire. But you get the idea these Japanese soldiers went in there to like do something to the grandma and possibly to the little kid, the girl. So it's a very dark scene. And just this poor kid that survives, he's the end of the movie is the shot of him walking on this road by himself, and he's singing to himself. And I think he like sees another kid too walking across the street. So you get the idea that these kids had all survived and what they had seen. Very, very dark ending, man. Like, there's no hope in this movie.
I mean, and these are truths. This is history that people have to live with for the rest of their lives, and like they can never escape these things. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't that long ago, and showing the children walking away, like at the time of that massacre. When did that happen? It was in the 1940, where am I? 1937? Or that's a safety zone, when the safety zone was opened. 1937.
That.
Yeah, so like if you were 6 years old in 1937, you'd be, by 2000, you'd be in your 60s. You know what I mean? So you're not ancient. I mean, you're up there, but like you can still remember this vividly. It happened, and you'll never forget. And I think ending on that note for something as exploitative and nasty and graphic and horrible and true is a really nice way of ending a film. you know, like as a reminder, like, hey, these were people and not
Yeah.
everyone just died and they weren't just objects and characters meant to fuck your night up with messed up imagery. You know, it's sad, very sad one.
Yeah, and I think the thing that when it does end like that, and after you go on, because this was like a freaking journey, man. Like I'd went from Philosophy of a Knife all the way to this one, and I was just like, holy shit. But I think the thing that I walk away with after watching all these movies is like what you said, it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't like this was thousands of years ago. This was
Nah, less
not
than
long ago at
100
all.
years. Less than
Yeah,
100
and
years
it just
ago.
goes to show when you strip away humanity, what are people capable of? What are people able to do once you strip away that someone's a person? And this was not just like psychos murdering people. Like, no, this was military and it was industrialized, and it was planned, and it was done for domination. And it really is something that when you watch it and you just look at it and you go like, it's just very important for um, things to never get that bad again. And
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I hate to burst the bubble, but you know, like there's genocides happening all over the world right now. It really,
mm,
really does suck. We're currently living through one in Gaza and whatnot, in
yeah,
Palestine. And
it's
it,
unfortunate, man. And it also goes to show, like,
uh,
even back at that time, it was happening. And I think it's something that's gonna maybe, if not always be a constant, it can always be a thing. It can always, unfortunately, it can always
I think
happen.
like when we're talking about like genocides and stuff like that, I mean, this was 731. I guess we couldn't really call it a genocide, but like really inhumane acts. I mean, it's a genocide, but like it's I don't know about that. I don't think it was ever like a real possibility that they were trying to, like with the plague, that would have been their genocide. But like these are
Mhm,
like massacres,
mhm.
just organized killing and trying to ethnically cleanse people, trying to start genocides when we actually have genocides right now. You know,
Yeah,
it's a real fucking horrible piece of history when these regions get touched by these levels of evil.
yeah,
And we should never think that it's impossible. Like we should always like know the signs, be aware of what we're witnessing and how things are being worded, because not every horrible thing that happens in human history is going to get a movie that hits you and doesn't let you forget these things in the detail the way Men Behind the Sun does.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like people that are going to like show you the ugly fucking truth of things that the government wants you to shut up about. You know, that possibility is shrinking, and Men Behind the Sun should be looked at as an important piece of media.
yeah,
So you're never
absolutely.
going to be able to forget or be able to like, you know, talk around it, because there are people like whenever something horrible happens, there's always someone on the other side like saying, "Nah, it didn't really happen like that. Nuh-uh, you're lying. Your country's just trying to get over in this way or that way, suppress
Mhm,
information." So props for making a movie about this. It
yeah,
definitely wasn't easy, and four of them,
mhm,
4 of them in Behind the
yeah.
Suns.
Definitely got a lot of respect for the director for going out there and having a vision to tell a story, or to not even just a story, but to tell these events and sort of just show like,
Mhm.
so I think it's a lot different when you hear about the history, you hear about the events, to actually attempt to show people like, this is what happened and this is undeniable and it's documented, it's got proof here. And I think it's, you could look at these movies as two different ways. You could look at them as, kind of exploitation, offensive. Why were they made? Da da da. But I look at it more as like, you can look at it and watch this and really learn from it and learn from what had happened, see the events that had unfolded, and um, use it as a learning point and use it as something to study and look at. And it's weird. It's just like for so long these events were hidden. Like the Japanese had destroyed so much documentation that there was no way for a lot of people for so many years to know about this. And Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a shame that this stuff had happened, but we can look at these movies and look back on this stuff as learning points. And yeah, I do think these movies, for as heavy as they are extremely well made, and they definitely have a reason for existing. But anyways, that's gonna do it for our Men Behind the Sun talk. I think that was a really fun. Well, to say it was fun, I mean it was fun, but it was also
I
a
had fun
really,
talking.
yeah, it was a lot of fun talking. But the subject matter is very dark, but it gave us a lot of time to discuss these movies and talk about them and how we view them and stuff. So I appreciate you joining me on this stream, man. It was really cool to have you here. Thank you, man.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You run a good show. It was very chill.
I
So we'll
haven't
do
done
it
one
again
in so
sometime, you know?
long. I tried,
We'll
y'all.
fucked up some stuff. No, you did great. This is chill. This was a good conversation. You know, we worked through all 4 movies, 5 technically, in less than an hour and a half. I'd say that's pretty damn good. And we
Mhm.
kept talking. We'll have to do something else fucked up sometime. You know, I
Yeah.
can talk about these movies all day for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, I
But yeah.
definitely would like to talk to you about August Underground one day too. Get the
Hell
August
yeah,
Underground talk.
I'd love to fucking rewatch them, dude. It's been a
Yeah,
minute. I got the maggot cut sitting over here, dude.
I'll rewatch more of them. I have the other 2, but I'll rewatch more of them.
Do you have the maggot cut? You got access?
No, but I do have a way to watch it though, but I
Okay,
don't
cool,
own it.
cool.
But
Hell yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll
man,
watch
thank you
it.
so much for joining me. This is a great stream. Thank you, man.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem at
Good
all,
talk.
man. It was an honor, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We got Miss C. Thank you for stopping by. Alice Super. Always cool to see you here, man. We had a new person in the chat, SB.
SB, I know you.
So
What's going
shout out
on?
to SB. Thank you so much for joining us here, man.
It
Appreciate
is.
it.
Part
And
2 and 3, I think, are on YouTube for
yeah.
anybody wanting.
Yeah, I think the first one is too as well, right? I think they had the first one on YouTube.
Yeah, but that second one is like ripped straight from the Blu-ray, I think. It's really
Ooh.
nice quality with
Yeah.
English subs.
I would
So,
watch that. Definitely would watch that.
yeah, before it gets taken down.
Or at least save it or something. But anyways, y'all, thank you guys so much for being here on the stream. Thanks, Corey, for joining me, and we'll see you guys later. It's your boy from Grief World signing out. Peace.
Bye.